This is the ballad of a guy named Jackalope Jim. He was the West's quickest draw, and no one could beat him. At the tender age of 10, he lost his mom and pop. So with a gifted metal arm, became a man of the law.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's Russ the Big Guy, and we are here with Jackalope Junction TV, television, and the birth of Jackalope Junction. This is episode 8 with Greg Schumsky. As you know by now, he's the chief cook and bottle washer. I am also on the board, and we're going to talk about something today. Let's just talk about one thing, one character.
Yeah, Jackalope Jim. So, what do you want to know about Jackalope Jim?
Well, let's see. Jackalope Jim, we know is a jackalope, and Jackalope Jim has a mechanical arm, prosthetic,
Yes. Yep.
and he's currently the sheriff.
Correct.
Yes.
Of
All right,
Jackalope
of
Junction.
Jackalope Junction. So, where did he come from? How did he get to Jackalope Junction? How does Mighty Oak Springs tie into it? Does the time portal make a difference?
The time portal always makes a difference. Not regarding Jackalope Jim's story. Well, sort of. So we'll start off with the birth of Jackalope Jim, how he came about. I had an idea for the park, and the name for the park. Well, actually, I was thinking when I came up with the idea for the park, and it kind of coalesced into becoming a theme park more or less originally. I thought, well, if it's going to be a theme park, who is our mascot? Who's our Mickey Mouse? What's going to be the figurehead? Everybody calls Disney, the mouse, the House of the Mouse, and he's the head cheese. And I thought,
it's important. It's important to have something iconic that people will relate to, right? And that you can use as shorthand for everything else.
Right. So I somehow I landed on a jackalope. I've liked jackalopes since I was a kid. The first time I saw one in Wyoming, I saw
right out in the desert.
Yeah, we were driving down the freeway heading to North Dakota in the back of my mom and dad's 1978 1977 Dodge Maxi van, and turned down the road listening to the Beatles out in the middle of Wyoming, and I saw a jackalope, and I thought, that is the most interesting thing I've ever seen. I said, Mom, Dad, there's a jackalope. My brothers thought I was being weird.
You don't see them very often anymore.
Well, and then we stopped somewhere, and sure enough, they had a jackalope head mounted on a plaque, taxidermy. And I thought, I wasn't wrong, right? So, short story long, I liked jackalope. So I thought, jackalope, what's the jackalope's name? What sounds good? Well, Jackalope Jim sounds good. It makes sense. And that was pretty much it. I started doing some sketches that were not the best, but different ideas of what I had. And then one day, one of my kids, my son or my daughter, said to me, you should make it steampunk, this Western park, make it steampunk, and give him a mechanical arm. And I thought, well, that's a dumb idea. Steampunk is so worn out. And then the next day I thought about it some more. I thought, well, it's not such a bad idea. And I thought, well, okay, if Jackalope Jim is missing an arm, why is that? Why does he have a mechanical arm? What's with that? So I started looking at the story of it. There had to have instead of just throwing it on there for the sake of throwing it on there, like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I was looking at, well, why is it there? And what's the purpose of it? What's the meaning of his arm? Why? And I thought, well, did he lose it this is the 1800s. Did he lose it in the Civil War? That was pretty common in the Civil War, men losing their arms or legs or their whole head. And so I thought, no, how about I want to give him a really, really rough background, more or less, that he was born without an arm. I thought, okay, he's born without an arm. Well, that's interesting. And then I thought about, well, and he's a jackalope. So what's his origins? Was dad is an antelope and his mom's a jackrabbit. So that's interesting because now you have this half-breed creature critter that's missing an arm. So now he's got the odds stacked against him, right? I mean, people. I think about people that have the odds stacked against them, and when you have the odds stacked against you when you grow up, you're either going to flourish and do something great in the world, or you're going to play the victim and just me, poor me, woe is me, I'm so sad. To add on to that, when he's 10 years old, and we'll get that in a minute, but when he's 10 years old, his mom and dad get killed by bandits. So now he's this outcast with no arm and half-breed, and he lost the people that love him the most, except for what he saw as his grandfather. So the story goes is that he's born, he eventually, when he gets old enough, 4 or 5 years old or whatever, his mom and dad make him a prosthetic arm. That's not the greatest thing in the world. His dad is a well-known gunsmith throughout the West. His mom is both a homemaker, but she's the first of the DIYers, the do-it-yourselfers, right? She kind of started the whole DIY movement at home, more or less. And then his grandfather, who is his mom's dad, is a bit of a tinkerer, inventor. He's also a marshal. He's an ex-marshal, so he's a lawman, and he also preaches every so often at their church. So years go by, and then Jim is now roughly 10 years old, and he's picked on a lot, but he doesn't really give in to the bullies. He knows how to get the best of the bullies and stuff like that, and doesn't let them bring him down. His mom and dad are loving and supportive all the time. His dad teaches him how to shoot with his left arm, with his left hand, which he's good at. But he becomes pretty good at it. And then one day, when he's about 10 years old, there's this massive earthquake, and it shakes the town, but it doesn't cause a lot of damage. And he decides to go explore out on his horse, and comes across the local hills and notices in the local hills which he's been to plenty of times, there's a cavern that's been exposed. So he goes in the cavern and he finds deep inside the cavern all these different gems of different colors, glowing red and blue and yellow and green. And so he decides he's going to grab some, and he goes over and he's really mesmerized by these. So he grabs some and realizes that the red ones vibrate a certain way and put off some temperature, and the green ones do as well. And he notices when he takes the yellow and puts it near one of the green ones, near one of the red ones, it lights up. So he decides he's going to take some home and show them to his mom and dad and his gramps. So he rides back home in a hurry and shows them, and they're like, "Wow, these are really interesting." So it's late, and he goes off to bed after supper. And that night, his mom and dad and grandpa stay up all night building him a new arm and a gun that goes with it that only fits that arm, that works with his hand. There's no trigger on it. It's triggered by thought. And the next morning, they're up all night doing this, and they're incorporating the gems into the gun and into the arm. And next morning he gets up and they surprise him with this new arm. He tries it on for the first time, and it's stronger, and he realizes that it's adaptable, that stuff could be added on to it. So he sees it, and his dad shows him the new gun he made for him, and Jim tries it out, and he doesn't even have to grab it. It just magnetically attaches to the hand, so he could just put his hand by his side and just whoop right to the hand. So he starts learning to practice with the gun. Well, his first shot he fires off is so fast, he's not even used to it, and it's not a bullet anymore. It's now this beam of energy that shoots out, a bolt of energy, and it ricochets and comes back and, well, takes off a part of his ear, his left ear. So he learns, oh, this is dangerous. I need to be more careful and not show off, blah, blah, blah. So he's practicing and practicing, and he decides to go in town one day, and he's showing off his new skills, and everybody's pretty impressed. Well, unbeknownst to him, there's a gang of bandits in the town who are posing as cattle hands or ranch hands. So Jim, and they have an eye on his arm and his gun. They want that gun, and they want those gems. So he heads home after the day and gets someone, unbeknownst to him, they follow him home, and they wait till night falls. And when he's finally in bed, they attack the house to look for the gems. And his mom and dad do the best they can to stop them, but in the process, they get killed by the bandits. So Jim escapes with his life. He's 10 years old. He runs off and goes to his grandpa's house not too far away in the night, and tells him what happened. And the grandpa goes back and says, "Stay here." And the grandpa goes back, but by then the rustlers are long gone. And fortunately, they didn't get any of the gems, but they're long gone because the gems were hidden, and his mom and dad are obviously now gone. So he spends the next 5 years angry, and his grandpa takes him to church and raises him. And when he's about 15 years old, he gets wind that those men that may have killed his parents are in another town not too far away. So in a hurry, he gets on his horse and rides off to go find those men and give them what for. So he gets to that town, and the men aren't there, but the town is a mess. And unbeknownst to him, I like the word unbeknownst. Anyway, what happens is he
I don't get to use it very often.
I do. It's my word of the day. He comes to the town. They know who he is. Word has traveled far and wide about Jackalope Jim, or this jackalope named Jim. And so he is there, and they say, "Can you stay and be our sheriff? Because we know about your grandpa, and you know something about the law. Can you stay and be our sheriff and clean up the town?" And reluctantly, he does at first. And after he's there for a while, and takes a few years to clean it up, and he makes friends. Well, after being there about 5 or 6 or so years, he gets word again about these bandits. So he goes off to the next town. Same thing happens. And this happens several times in his life. And then when he finally gets the final word, he's now older. He's in his, late 20s or early 30s. And he goes riding off one more time. And as he's riding along, he comes across this abandoned ghost town, mining ghost town named Mighty Oak Springs. And he is intrigued by it, and he loves to explore. So he decides to stop, and it's getting late, and he goes out and he walks through the town. There's nobody to be seen at all. And as he's walking through, he follows these train tracks back further and further and further into the town, and past the town, and comes upon these caves, and follows the train tracks into these caves, and discovers inside the caves gems very similar to the ones he had found when he was a kid. Same, and he notices they have the same properties. And this is when he comes across the ex-foreman of the mining operation, Senior Antonio Mole, which we'll get into another episode about. And at first, Mole puts a gun to his back because he doesn't know. He thinks he's there to steal the gems, and realizes it's Jackalope Jim. This legendary. People have never seen. He was a legend at this point, and people couldn't believe that there was a horned jackrabbit, right? So Jim really likes them, and they come out of the caves, and here's all the people that stayed behind in the ghost town, and they welcome him with open arms. And he thinks, well, he decides, I like this place. I'm going to help them fix it up and make it my new home, because he's done chasing after these bad guys. So from then on, he becomes the sheriff of Jackalope Junction, and he helps restore the town with the help of the townsfolk and a few steampunk robots that he finds that are in kind of disorder and broken and busted up, and he rebuilds them, and life goes on. And that's Jackalope Jim, more or less. Ta-da!
We talk about different types of values and things, so let's connect Jackalope Jim to a few things.
Okay.
So responsible for our own actions. We keep our promises to ourselves and commitments to others. We're honest and trustworthy.
Right.
All under accountability.
Accountability. Yeah. So, he doesn't have to stay at these towns he's been asked to help out with. I mean, he's after these bad guys, and his heart is really set on putting things right and putting these guys either capturing them or putting them down. He's a serious guy, and he doesn't put up with a lot of guff. So he becomes a strong role model for that, in that he doesn't back down from things. He's been bullied his whole life, growing up, and he doesn't back down. So he is asked to stay, and he says, "Yeah, I'll stay," but he doesn't want to. He does it reluctantly, but he sees there's trouble, and he knows he has to stay to help clean up these towns, right? And then when he comes across Mighty Oak, it's the same thing. He doesn't have to stay, but people have heard about him, and he realizes he can help. So it's about making promises and keeping those promises, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things. So because he has a reputation of being honest and trustworthy, he has a lot of opportunities that are presented to him where someone else, another person or another entity, maybe somebody from the Slippery Slope gang, which I know you'll talk about in another episode, or, one of those bandits, they're not going to get the same type of opportunities. They're not going to have the same type of life as someone who is trustworthy, who does show that they're responsible, they can be counted on, and that, when they say something, when they give their word, they follow through. And that's what Jackalope Jim is demonstrating, I think.
Well, and there's some great scripture about that too in the Bible, about, he who is given little and is trustworthy with it can be given much, or he who is given little and is not trustworthy with it can't be trusted with much as well.
Right.
And so Jim is he has character, and not just because he's a character, but he has character and resilience, and the poor guy's been through a lot, but instead of letting that turn him into someone that wants to take advantage of everybody, it's turned him into somebody that despite his own feelings at times, he knows he has to help, and he wants to help, and deep down inside he has that, because he could have said, yeah, I'll help out, and he could have gone around, shot some people, or done whatever it was at the town, and then taken off to go chase after the guys, because that could have been more important to him, and it was important to him, but he felt more of a calling to stay despite his flesh telling him, you need to go after these guys. His spirit was telling him, you need to stay and work things out and grow. So
beautiful. All right, well, that is episode 8, and we're talking about Jackalope Jim specifically. This is Russ the Big Guy saying goodbye. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Russ. Goodbye. Thank you, everyone.
All right, another character coming up in the next episode.